Do something different. Take the core stuff, learn it, perfect it, and do it great. That's old school. But go outside the box a few times and say, look, what can the Legion be? What can we do better? Where can we grow? We're almost 100 years old, and this is the first time we've been overseas. That's okay. That's a success. That's what we want. If you can send a team over to a combat zone, you can do anything in the American Legion. As Butch Miller said, past national commander at American Legion College, he said, we had this quirky group of people said they're going to go to a combat zone, these civilians. And he goes, one day we get a phone call. They actually went. They actually did the impossible. I joined the Army as a combat engineer 12B, and then I transferred over to combat artillery 13B, and actually I was in the Charlie Battery, the one we visited over in Djibouti, Africa. Then I got my graduate degree done, did ROTC, distinguished graduate out of U of L, University of Louisville, and then I had to go to the Air Force. At that time they were hiring officers. The Army wasn't, the Air Force was. And I got to serve out my career there and do agency work. I was a federal agent for a number of years. You have to have a true bond with the unit. You can't just go there and say, I want your membership, I want to do this, I just want you to send us to a foreign combat zone. They're going to look at you strange, and for rightfully so. But they need to know it's a long process. The relationships are hard to build because it's a trust issue. You know, you just, yeah, you're in the uniform, but what are you, who are you? Why are you here? Why are you really here? And you got to show that through family days, barbecues. What do you need? What can I do for you? Really show action. What we learned from it is you got to give it time. You got to go through the old school, if you will, the resolutions, and make sure it's right, because you want to represent the Legion as a state or a department. You also want to make sure that you're raising enough money and that it's not a burden to the Legion or any of the members. You also want to make sure that when you go over there that you have people that truly are there for the right reasons. It's not a vacation, it's physically demanding, and you have a lot of responsibility. You're representing the American Legion in a combat zone. What you do will basically tell future soldiers whether or not they want to be in that organization and if future commanders will allow it to happen. And that's the critical things. And when we take back the lessons, we always got to remember that the flexibility is the key. When the soldiers want to sit there and talk to you just to talk about home, we never thought, you know, well, why would they want to sit there and talk? Well, because they're not there. You got to reach out to them. You got to let them tell their story. And then when you get home, part of that responsibility is telling mom and dad, the wife and the kids, hey, I saw your dad, and it was a great time. And you know, and he just thought a lot about you. And you share those stories. And now you've got the family involved, and you got the Legionnaire and the veteran involved, and you got all these people involved. And you got to really, you have to appreciate the moment. In other words, this isn't about you, it's about the soldier. And it's about the future of that organization and making sure that they get a good sense of support. And once you appreciate that moment, you really have the gravity of it where you sit there and you say, man, this is something that I'm going to carry for a long time. And you got to be able to hug, shake hands, and pat backs, because these soldiers, some of them will cry, and I'm not trying to suggest anything light on them, but they really just love that moment so much, and you have to be ready for it. And it hits you, you know, no matter how trained you are, it truly hits you down to your core, because who wants to go to a combat zone when they can go to Disneyland or something different? Who wants to go there? And if we really are doing the service of the Legion, the answer is Legionnaires will go there. I think what the most important thing about the mission is it shows that the American Legion is dynamic and innovative. There are people who come up and say, Pete, I'm not going to go to a combat zone. That's not going to happen. And I say, that's fine, what are you going to do though? And they say, well, because you did this in a combat zone, I know I can do this stateside. In other words, we're showing that there is a box, and we have to be in it somewhat. We have to do the tried and true methods, the ones that help us with our core programs and core concepts and membership. Those things are important, and we all should learn them and do them. But what the mission showed bigger is that a lot of younger veterans, and this is how we made our post stronger, is to say, what do you want to do for veterans? You can sign people up all day. You can sit there and tell them how wonderful and great the Legion is, and everything's perfect and rainbows and butterflies. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to action. What are you really doing? Are you really going? I mean, you really, you know, hey, we're going to have these parties and barbecues and family days, and you know, we're going to take care of your kids and families, and we have oratorical, and we got boy state, girl state. The riders are coming up. They do a lot of legacy drive. You know, what are you doing? And when you sit there and you stop talking and you act, it's amazing, because that really means more. Anything can happen in the American Legion. And a lot of younger veterans, or if we will, newer veterans to the organization, they don't want a stodgy old organization or what they perceive as maybe something that doesn't do, or maybe there's limitations. They want to see a dynamic leadership, innovative. They want to see that creativity. And that mission allowed people to see that. It inspired people to do more and know that they can do more. Take what we did here and grow it any way you want. And it doesn't mean you got to go overseas, just grow it any way you want. If you plant the seeds today, you will have the trees tomorrow. If you work with the veterans, the soldiers today, you will have the veterans serving veterans in the future. And that's what I would tell people. Take that away from this whole experience.